So in this class we will be discussing about the Internet of Things and the machine to machine or the machine to machine communication as or we name it. So M2M, also known as machine to machine communication or communication of machine to machine, it's basically a secure communication between two different machines, and here data is shared from one device to another through a machine to machine connection. So this technology is now widely used in offices, houses, shopping malls, resorts, airports, etc. And this machine to machine refers to the networking of machines. Okay, and the purpose is basically could be remote monitoring, some control, or some data exchange. Okay, now let us have a look on how the machine to machine architecture actually looks like. So normally we have this machine to machine area networks. Okay, normally when we are talking about machines, these machines actually use, there are different kind of protocols or machine suited protocols, such as the CAN bus might be there or the mod bus. Okay, so different protocols are there which are associated with machines. So in order to connect them to the IP network, we have to use a M2M or machine to machine gateway. So through the machine to machine gateway, they can connect to the M2M core network. The core network can again be wired or it can be a wireless network, as in this case. Okay, and then they are connected to the cloud or some local storage in which we could have our own servers, and some applications can be run. So normally when talking about a M2M area network, it comprises of machines that have embedded network modules for sensing, actuating, and communicating with various communication protocols. So mostly the protocols that are used, like I told, are Zigbee, Bluetooth, M-bus, CAN bus, or wireless M-bus. These are the different kind of protocols. So these protocols provide connectivity between the M2M nodes within the M2M area network. Now the communication network provides connectivity to remote M2M area networks. And the communication network here, as I discussed, can be wired or wireless. Okay, so normally when we use these machines, there can be proprietary or non-IP based communication protocol. So that's why you need a gateway to connect to the IP network. So this is basically a kind of gateway that can be used to connect the M2M node to the IP based network. So as we see here, M2M node can have these different kinds of protocols like the Bluetooth, Zigbee, 802.15.4. Similarly, M-bus, wireless M-bus, or UWB, or the mod bus like I discussed, or the CAN bus can be one of the M2M area networks. So they can be connected with the M2M gateway like as shown here, and there will be a native protocol. This is for communicating using the native protocol, such as like I discussed, like the mod bus or the CAN. So using this native protocol, they can communicate with this node, and then there's a protocol translation. Okay, this which job is to convert the data which is in the native protocol into a IP based or IP data, IPv4 or v6 data, and then it can be sent through the IP routing. And here it can be a wired or a wireless network after this. Same thing has been discussed here, that to enable the communication between remote M2M networks, we have the M2M gateway. Okay, so that figure actually shows the M2M gateway like we discussed earlier. So these are some of the applications of this M2M, like where it can be used. So it can be used for traffic control, where the vehicles and the traffic lights can communicate among themselves. So this is sometimes called the V2X network or vehicle to infrastructure kind of network. Then remote monitoring is also possible. So if you are monitoring some remote resources, obviously you need communication between those resources and your server. Then warehouse management systems. In a warehouse, there can be multiple number of machines installed, so they can communicate among themselves. Telemedicine, in which different sensors will be talking among themselves. Similarly, harvesting energy like oil and gas also require a lot of resources on the oil rigs, etc. They can be different machines, they can communicate among themselves. Similarly, in supply chain management, we have trucks, etc., carrying different kind of goods. The trucks and the goods they are carrying, they can also communicate. Like let's say we have a package, the package can have different sensors that will communicate with the truck so as to tell what is the per present condition of that particular commodity or the goods stored inside the boxes, so that the driver can reach in time. Similarly, some customer billing like smart meters are also some of the applications of M2M. So the best example is the users can have smart meters which will be connected to the power grid or electrical grid, and these smart meters will provide the instantaneous load, the projected load, all these informations to the grid, and the grid can prepare accordingly. So now that we have discussed about the machine to machine communication, let us learn about the differences between the Internet of Things and machine to machine communication. Actually, sometimes the machine to machine communication is also called a subdomain of Internet of Things. Okay, let us compare them. So from the communication protocols point of view, if we consider the machine to machine communication, the commonly used M2M protocols include Zigbee, Bluetooth, Modbus, Mbus, CAN bus, all these kind of protocols can be there. Similarly, if we talk about IoT, we are basically discussing about protocols like HTTP, COAP, MQTT, WebSocket. All these are the protocols that are commonly used. Similarly, machines in machine to machine versus things in IoT. This is another difference. So normally the machines in M2M will be homogeneous. So similar kind of machines might be used, and the network also used there is normally homogeneous. For example, in a industry, there are, let's say, different machines. They might be connected through a local area network, which may be, let's say, based on twisted pair cables, or might be based on fiber optics, or may be connected wirelessly. Whereas when we discuss about things in IoT, it could be heterogeneous. There can be different variety of devices in your home itself. There can be different varieties of these IoT devices, starting from a small thermostat to your refrigerator to television to some other device. It can be quite different from each other, heterogeneous devices. Similarly, the network also, when we consider IoT, is also heterogeneous, as some devices might be connected to local area network, while some other devices might be connected to wireless network. Another parameter is the hardware versus software emphasis. While in machine to machine, the emphasis is more on the hardware, where we have some embedded modules connected to it. Whereas in IoT, the emphasis is mostly on software. The kind of visualization you can show to the consumer, all these things are important. Whereas in the M2M, it is important to get the job done. The industry has been designed, or the factory has been designed to do a particular job, and the emphasis is to deliver something there. Similarly, data collection and analysis. On this aspect, the M2M is here, the data is collected in point solutions and often in on-premise storage infrastructure. So factories have their own storage, and the data can be collected here. Another difference we can also consider is that in machine to machine communication, the amount of data generated is quite huge. Similarly, if we consider the IoT, the data is normally collected in the cloud, because if we have the on-premises storage, it can be a costly affair. So if we have a cloud, it can be used in a pay-as-you-go basis, and the resources can be pooled. Similarly, from the applications point of view, in M2M, data is collected in point solutions, and it can be accessed by on-premise applications like diagnosis applications, service management applications, premise enterprise applications. So we have to implement the application on the premise, on the factory premises, let's say. So whereas in IoT, mostly the data is collected in the cloud, and cloud-based applications are actually better, like analytics applications, enterprise applications, remote diagnosis and management applications. So these are basically the differences between IoT and the machine to machine communication. Thank you.